Well, I would love to be able to tell you that I am honored to have been asked to speak here today, but I can't, because nobody asked me to speak. I asked to speak to this class because I've gotten to know them so well. I've had some for 2 years, some for 3 years, and they have so inspired me that I had to leave them with some parting words. So let me begin my address. Distinguished colleagues, parents, friends, family, and beloved class of 2010. While today is indeed a commencement, a celebration of new beginnings, I would also like us to reflect on the fact that we are here to bear witness to a culmination, and not simply of 4 or 12 years of education, but really to witness the culmination, or better yet, the zenith of thousands of years of Western civilization. For sitting here before us today is our society's greatest achievement. These students who are the product of a free and public education. And this product, these specific students, the class of 2010, these Falcons of Foothill High School, evidence all that is great about our school system. For they or their families hail from nearly every part of the world, from China, Burma, Taiwan, Korea, Nigeria, Iran, Iraq, India, Pakistan, Russia, England, Scotland, Ireland, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Canada, Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and many countries I am remiss not to mention. And whether or not they hail from war-torn nations, impoverished nations, nations under dictators, or ones that live in relative peace, they all have one thing in common. They are Americans. And in the depths of their souls, these students, the class of 2010, know what it truly means to be an American. Raised in the shadow of the September 11th attacks, these students are old enough to know the tremendous impact of those horrific events. But they are also just old enough not to let those attacks warp their worldview. They don't live in fear or despair. They don't live with clenched fists, always on the defensive. And at the risk of what might sound like a cliche today, they face the future with hope and a purpose to make this world a better place. And because they face the future with hope, I live in hope. A year or two ago, I was at a party, and an acquaintance asked me in a bit of a derisive tone, "How are these students today?" And while he might have expected me to bemoan the young men and women who sit here before you today, I looked him dead in the eye and replied, "If the students I work with are the leaders of tomorrow, we have nothing to worry about." And perhaps because he was in shock, or because we were interrupted, I never elaborated or was able to tell this acquaintance why I indulge in such optimism. However, now that I have you here today, a captive audience, I'd like to tell you why. After all, they are your children, relatives, and friends. You are well aware of your student scores. My generation has done its best to quantify and parse this younger generation. However, I don't want to speak of your student scores. I want to tell you what they know. And the first thing these students know is that they are not numbers. If you want evidence, go to YouTube and search for Richey Project, "You Are Not a Number." Despite our best efforts to reduce these students to the quantifiable, they refuse to be so labeled. Despite SAT, ACT, STAR tests, AP tests, or API scores, these students know that all these means of evaluation are not an end in themselves, but at best, a means to an end. And that end is to be free, autonomous people who are destined not merely to make their mark in the world, but to change the world. And this brings me to the second thing these students know. They know that the world is flat. And while some of us long for the day when the world was round, when it was a globe with clearly defined artificial and natural borders, when Facebook, Twitter, email, and text messaging weren't even a dream, these students wonder why a map has so many lines. For to them, the exploited young men and women in Kenya, Nepal, or Haiti is as immediate and important as the plight of those in New Orleans, Oakland, or Pleasanton. And thirdly, these students know they are privileged, and that privilege demands responsibility. They've seen the reckless abandon of those who indulge in privilege with no sense of duty, and they reject such immorality. In fact, even though they have inherited the mess created by such greed, they are ready, willing, and more than able to clean it up. And finally, these students know all of these things because, as I said earlier, they know what it means to be an American. Even amidst the querulous droning of partisan politics, they have felt the heartbeat of these United States. They understand, as our framers did, as Frederick Douglass did, as Abraham Lincoln did, as Abigail Adams did, as Eleanor Roosevelt did, and as Walt Whitman did, that America is not simply a place. It is an ideal, a grand experiment that knows no borders. They know, whether explicitly because I beat it into their heads every day, or implicitly because of the dedication of their other teachers, that our democracy is not simply a form of government, but an inward discipline. They know that every right we enjoy through our Constitution enjoins an equal responsibility. And so, class of 2010, I will not give you any charge or mandate. I will not tell you to take the torch from the previous generation, for you know your duty, and you have already taken up the torch. My charge is to your parents, family, and friends. To them I say, well done. You have done right by your children. They are a great generation, perhaps even the greatest generation. And your duty now is to let your children lead. They will not disappoint you. Thank you, class of 2010. The last 3 years have been the greatest of my career. You make me proud, and you inspire me. I am a better person for having been your teacher. May you be granted many, many, many years. Thank you.